In October, I watch horror movies. In December, I watch Christmas movies. So, what about November? Well, I like to watch films that mix spookiness and festive nostalgia, and what better series to do that than the Harry Potter films? And it may not seem like it, but I'm actually a huge fan of these movies, to the point I say it might actually be one of, if not the best film franchise of all time, if not for the last 3 spin-offs. And since I don't feel like waiting another 2 or 3 years for more Harry Potter because they're rebooting it for some reason, I'll just go ahead and rewatch the ones that already exist. Anyways, I'm gonna quickly review and rank them, so let's go. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or the Philosopher's Stone if you live outside the US, but I live in the US, so that's what I'm calling it. The first film in the series follows young Harry Potter, a boy who grew up in a comically abusive household who discovers that his parents were actually wizards and that he's been invited to spend the year at Hogwarts School for Witchcraft and Wizardry. After running off with a complete stranger named Hagrid, Harry begins to find a place in the world as a gifted young wizard, making friends with other first-year students Ron and Hermione, and even some enemies with Draco Malfoy and Severus Snape, a teacher that everyone hates, which, to be fair, he's pretty rude. And as it would turn out, Harry is actually the chosen one, because this evil wizard guy named Voldemort couldn't kill him as a baby. And by the end of the film, after investigating this mysterious stone that has different names and different versions of the movie for some reason, they find out that one of their professors was actually Voldemort in disguise. But Harry inadvertently kills him by touching his face and he disintegrates or whatever, and they all lived happily ever after. You know, a movie filled with child actors pretending to be wizards sounds like it would be awful, and yet it is somehow one of my favorite movies of all time. Everything here, I just feel like it works. The actors are all great, and even if they aren't at their best here, you know, they really manage to grow into their roles as the movies go on. And that's not even mentioning the adult actors who are all equally iconic in their roles too. It is one of the best film scores of all time. An amazing aesthetic with all the ways like the world is crafted and everything, like especially Hogwarts, and has such a heartwarming vibe to it while still balancing the darker stuff. It's one of those movies that you just never get tired of watching, and it's always good to have one of those kinds of movies around. I think it's safe to say that this is one of the most iconic movies of all time. It's certainly one of my favorites, so I'm going to say that this movie is great, and it's going all the way up in S tier. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Harry's heading back to Hogwarts for his second year at the school, but now without a whole new set of problems. You see, Dobby the house elf, which are slaves. House elves are slaves, and no one seems to care that the wizard world has slavery in it. He's trying to get Harry kicked out of the school to protect him. But protect him from what, you may ask? Well, the mysterious Chamber of Secrets is opening back up, and a whole bunch of kids, they're getting petrified, including Hermione. After following the clues and doing a lot of detective work, well, as much detective work as children can do in these movies, Ron and Harry head into the chamber and discover that the ghost of Tom Riddle is trying to come back. But to make matters worse, Tom Riddle is actually Voldemort. Voldemort is even like an anagram for Tom Marvolo Riddle or whatever. Look, it's just Voldemort's gonna keep coming back in all these movies. He keeps finding ways to come back. I don't know. But anyway, Harry uses the sword of Gryffindor, which just magically appears to kill the giant basilisk. That's another thing that these movies do. Just items will do whatever they need to do. Spells will do whatever they need to do to advance the plot. But he destroys Tom Riddle's diary, which stops Voldemort from coming back for now, and the school gets another happy ending. Even Dobby gets freed. And yeah, no one cares that there's slavery in Harry Potter. This movie is an example of a sequel basically being the same as the first one and kind of suffering for it. It's not even remotely a bad movie, but there are times during this where it feels like it's trying a little too hard to capture the magic of the original instead of being its own thing. And you can certainly feel that during this film's extended runtime. Now look, there are a lot of good things in here. You know, Gilderoy Lockhart, he's a very egotistical character, and that's very entertaining. The polyjuice potion stuff that disguises the trio leads to some funny moments. And there's some dark, creepy stuff with like the mystery behind Tom Riddle and all that. And also a lot of creepy giant spiders. It's very creepy, but you know, they did a good job making them creepy. I don't think it's quite as good as the first one, but they're so close to each other. So I'm gonna say this one is good. I'm going to put it in a very high A tier. I wish it was just a little bit more original, and that's where the next movie comes in. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. It's Harry's 3rd year at Hogwarts, and yeah, you get the drill. There's a mystery to solve, but this time the mystery is about Sirius Black, the only man to escape Azkaban prison. And everyone thinks he's going to kill Harry since he supposedly killed his parents, and is also his godfather. Since there's a dangerous killer on the loose, Dumbledore and the folks at Hogwarts decide, you know what? Let's guard this place with Dementors, or demonic ghost-looking things that rip the souls out of people's bodies. That'll cause no harm whatsoever. To help Harry overcome his fears of the Dementors and deal with the trouble concerning Sirius Black, the new Defense Against the Dark Arts Professor Lupin is here, and he's also had some connections with Harry's parents, and also every movie has a new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher for some reason. As the plot comes to its climax, it's revealed that Sirius Black isn't actually the bad guy, but was framed by Peter Pettigrew, who in turn has disguised himself as Ron's pet rat ever since he worked with Voldemort and got Harry's parents killed way back when. And that's got some really creepy implications. Ron's pet this whole time has been Nazi wizard guy. It's weird. It's weird. Anyway, with the help of some time travel, and yes, there's time travel in this movie, Harry and Hermione manage to save Sirius before he gets sent back to prison. And while Peter Pettigrew may still be on the loose, there's still a mostly happy ending here. Okay, I may be really sarcastic in describing the plot of this movie, but truth be told, this is my favorite. The direction from Alfonso Cuarón is exactly what this series needed to spice things up. Things begin to feel a little bit darker in this movie, not just in the spookiness of it all, but the conflicts the characters are facing begin to feel a bit more mature. The world also feels a bit more realistic and lived in, like the kids actually act like kids living in this world instead of just a bunch of people being starstruck by all the magic happening around them, even though the magic is supposed to be normal for them anyway. I think it might be the best balance of dark and light that these movies got. They got some really compelling characters, and it's all around a great time. That's why I consider this movie great, and it's going up in S tier. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Things switch up the fourth time around, as this year at Hogwarts we got the Tri-Wizard Tournament, which, to sum it up very briefly, is the Wizard Olympics, but with kids for some reason. Oh, and the trials are so ridiculously dangerous, I can't understand who okayed this. Even though Harry is too young to compete, his name is thrown into the mix, and for reasons that are incredibly flimsy, he just has to compete so the plot can happen. Anyway, all of this is just a ploy to get Harry in the right location so that they can revive Voldemort. Even though they could have just kidnapped him from the start, I don't know. Harry wins the tournament, but his friend Cedric, he dies, and Voldemort comes back. So things don't really have a happy ending this time around. You know what's funny? This used to be my favorite movie for a long time, but the more I've watched it, the more I felt that this movie just doesn't really make much sense. And it's not even a bad movie. It's just, I don't like it as much as the others. The Tri-Wizard Tournament stretches the suspension of disbelief just a little too far, and there's a lot of things that happen here without much payoff or explanation, like Ron and Harry, they're angry at each other for about 20 minutes, and then they just kind of drop that plot line. And for a series about solving mysteries, showing off the bad guy at the start of the movie makes it very obvious, who's behind the mystery right from the get-go. And I don't find the direction as interesting as the previous film either, but at least the movie is entertaining. So for this movie, I'm going to say it's a very low good. It's still good, right? And I'm going to put it in a high B tier. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Even more problems are facing Hogwarts as Dumbledore is removed from his position by the Ministry of Magic and replaced with Dolores Umbridge, who is not very nice, to say the least. Replacing valuable classes with information helpful to no one, Harry and friends are in quite the pickle, considering Voldemort is out there stirring up some trouble. In order to defend themselves and taking some inspiration from Sirius Black and the rest of the Order of the Phoenix, that's, the title of the movie, Harry starts a secret club to learn how to defend themselves. Shenanigans ensue, and Harry and the gang get caught up with Voldemort and his posse, leading to a pretty big battle, and even Sirius Black's death. Now that the whole wizard world actually believes that Voldemort is back, unlike, just denying it and what Harry said earlier, things are only going to get more dangerous from here. For whatever reason, I always forget about this movie, and I don't know why. I wish I would have watched it more when I was growing up, because it's really good. Even though we are on the second half of the series where things are getting darker, there's actually a lot of really fun, lighthearted stuff in this movie that happens, and I certainly enjoyed it more than the last movie, and I also like how it allowed a lot of the other side characters to shine. Not only is the final battle awesome, but it also gives a taste for what's to come later. I'm not really sure if I want to say this is good or great, but you know what? I think I'll be nice and say this movie is great. And I'm going to put it up in A tier. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Harry's last regular year at Hogwarts is his darkest, with Voldemort growing in power. Dumbledore tasks Harry with aiding him and looking through Voldemort's memories in hopes of finding Horcruxes, which are just MacGuffins that need to be destroyed to kill Voldemort. And it's a really good thing that Voldemort waits to the end of every school year to attack everyone. Meanwhile, Harry is learning some advanced potions from an old textbook formerly owned by the Half-Blood Prince, and Draco finds himself caught up with the Death Eaters, whether he likes it or not, even leading to a pretty gruesome fight between the two. Dumbledore and Harry's journey is cut short, though, when Snape ends up killing him. To be fair, he did it to spare Draco from murdering Dumbledore, and because Dumbledore asked Snape to do it for reasons that are set up in later movies. There's a lot of setup in this movie. Oh, and Snape is also the Half-Blood Prince, except that whole storyline barely has anything to do with the overall plot. But anyways, Dumbledore is dead, Voldemort is stronger than ever, and Harry is leaving Hogwarts to finish the job, with Ron and Hermione, of course. Marked by this sepia-toned look and very drab atmosphere, this marks the series' true turn to the dark, especially since these last three movies they're kind of their own trilogy. Although I'm not sure if it all comes together here in this one. I feel like this movie is caught between trying to be this like dark adventure, trying to destroy Voldemort, but at the same time there's a lot of like teen romance drama without a lot of chemistry that's just here. Regardless, I think this movie is good, and I'm gonna put it up in A tier. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the first one. It's the beginning of the end, literally. It's the first half of a longer story, and you can blame this for doing those two-part finales in every young adult series for some reason. Although I can forgive that here, because this blows all those other young adult series out of the water. But anywho, Voldemort, he's taken over, and Harry, Ron, and Hermione, they're on the run. They're trying to destroy the Horcruxes. Unlike the previous films, they don't go to Hogwarts at all, and are instead on a journey across some locations that are familiar, and a lot of new places as well, and they even run into Dobby. But, he dies at the end. There's really not much to say plot-wise, as this is more or less set up for the next part where it all comes together. And I think that's what's mostly holding this movie back, but what we get here is genuinely good, and by far the most unique film in the series. It's a satisfying journey watching these characters grow over the series to what we have here. A lot of people don't like this movie so much, and that's perfectly understandable, but I think there's a lot to appreciate in this. It's an eerie road trip movie with a wizard war as the backdrop, focused more on the core trio than it ever has before, and stretching their relationships to their breaking point. I think they probably could have made both parts into one film, but hindsight's 2020, and regardless, I'm happy with this one, so I'm going to say it's good, and I'm going to put it in a high B tier. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the other one. Harry, Ron, and Hermione reunite with the side characters from Hogwarts for one last climactic battle, giving us some satisfying action and payoff to all sorts of character arcs and moments. After suffering some devastating losses and truly emotional scenes, especially the Snape scene, if you know, you know, and destroying the Horcruxes, which includes Harry, part of him was accidentally made a Horcrux when Voldemort couldn't kill him as a baby, they managed to stop Voldy and the others. It even ends with a nice heartfelt epilogue with the trio grown up sending their kids off to Hogwarts to start their journey. Although that place is extremely dangerous, so I don't know why you'd want to do that. Since this is part 2, there's really not much left for me to say that, I didn't already talk about with the other one. For a movie series to last this long and not have a single bad movie, it's an achievement. But to end on such a strong note is really good as well. I think this is about as good a finale as you could get for a series that is almost entirely good. It perfectly ties the knot on everything that's come before it. Obviously, I think this one is great. I'm putting it up in S tier. It's one of the better finales out there. So this is the part of the video I would have dedicated to the Fantastic Beasts movies, but just like the producers of those films cutting it down from 5 to 3, I'm not even going to bother here. Maybe I just don't have it in me to talk about bad movies, and the first Fantastic Beasts isn't even that bad. I just have literally zero willpower to talk about them. I don't know. There are some concepts here that could have been interesting, like new locations and new settings and all that, but it all boils down to another wizard war and stuff you've seen before without any of the build-up or magic of the Harry Potter films, pun intended. I'm putting the first in C tier, and the other two in D tier. With all that being said, those are my thoughts on the Harry Potter series. Well, most of the movies, not really so much the last 3, but why don't you guys tell me what your thoughts are on the Harry Potter series? Do you like it? Do you not like it? What's your favorite? What's your least favorite? Whatever that may be, let me know in the comments, and I'll see y'all next time.